आशीष जो सोचने का मर्द है। हम हो पुजारी करके गुरुदेव के आदेश के, सच प्रेम के नित देव के, सर्वधर्म के सत्कर्म के, ऊंची है झूठी राह की, अन्याय की अभिमान की, सेवा करन हो दास की, परवाह नहीं हो जान की। छोटे रहो हम बुद्धि से, हो विश्वमय ईश्वर, हो राम और कृष्ण में, जगदेव में जगदीश में, हरे इंद्रियों प्रताप है, हम वीर हो अति वीर हो, उज्ज्वल रहे सर से सदा, निज धर्म रत गंभीर हो, अति शुद्ध हो आचार से, तन मन हमारा सर्वदा, आध्यात्म की शक्ति हमें अधीन करके चुना, इस अमर आत्मा में हर श्वास भरने रंग रहे, गर्भ मौत भी आए, सुख दुख हमसे संग रहे।
So, good afternoon all.
Good afternoon.
Today we have speaker Kartikeya Kandoi, who will speak on importance of actuarial valuations in employee benefits and potential impact of social security code. So he'll brief that what is the social security code and what will be the impact of that also. Before he start his class, I would like to introduce him. Kartikeya is a chartered accountant as well as actuary. So basically, he has done 6 years of articleship. आप लोगों को 3 साल की आर्टिकलशिप होती है ना सीए में, इन्होंने 6 साल की आर्टिकलशिप की है, 3 साल की सीए में करी है और 3 साल की एक्चुअरी में करी है। तो आपको अब लगा होगा कि आर्टिकलशिप का 3 साल का पीरियड जो है वो ज्यादा नहीं है, ऐसा लगा या नहीं लगा? Because he has done 6 years of articleship, and apart from that, I think I would rather like that Kartikeya himself introduce and start his speech also on the subject, and wherever required, I will be interrupting and explaining you also. Yes, Kartikeya.
Thank you very much, sir, and welcome all of you over here and friends joining online. So, as rightly said, so I have done a double articleship, you can say, because first I had completed my CA, then I had started the actuary. So it was a tough call, but although it has paid off well. So I would first like to understand from you, all members, that what you understand from
अच्छा,
the.
आपके लिए मैं एक चीज बता देता हूँ कि आज क्विज नहीं है ना, लेकिन फिर भी प्राइज रखे हुए हैं। तो वो क्यों रखे हुए हैं?
We can have surprise.
You all understand. Aruji understand very well. बट जिसको पहले ये एक्टिव पार्टिसिपेशन का प्राइज मिला हुआ है उसको नहीं मिलेगा। नहीं, उसको भी मिलेगा। So you all have to participate actively, and I will judge कि किसने actively participate किया, and accordingly will disperse prize. Yes.
Right. So first of all, I would like to understand from you what you know about this topic or any word which is written over here other than my name. Like for example, the topic name, anything which is within the topic name. So what you understand from that. So accordingly, we can have more discussion on that.
Those who are online can also reply to this.
Yeah,
Yes, continue.
yeah, please. Any member? Yeah, please.
It's related to valuation and this मतलब loss of loss due to fire. तो कितना loss हुआ उस fire के कारण particular उसको value करना.
Okay, ठीक है.
Example.
Loss due to fire. Okay.
So might be it is related to the ESOPs or something which we distribute, and how they are going to be distributed or how they will be vesting in the coming years or something.
Right.
So there might be some actual calculation regarding their vesting value and something.
Correct. That's very one good example. Any other member, please?
As per what I know, actually means by judging the probability of the circumstance or situation that will occur in future, what amount we should pay to a person that do not incur any losses and generally have the gains.
Okay. That's also a good example about what is actually. Yeah. Any other member? Yeah, please.
For example, we calculate employee benefits, which an organization has to pay to its employees. So the estimates which are used in that calculation, the topic might be about those estimates and how they are derived.
Okay. So can any of you give me example of some of the employee benefits? Like these are the employee benefits. Okay. Whether salary is also employee benefit? Yeah. So salary should be ideally the first example because salary is one of the first and the biggest employee benefit. See why we are talking on this, because as we chartered accountants, we should know what is covered in the standard in the scope, because whenever we read any accounting standard or Ind AS, first they cover the scope, what is covered in the standard, then they cover the exclusions, what is not covered. So we should be aware about what is covered in the standard, what is not covered. And if I tell you more about actuary, so actuary is a profession where we calculate the financial impact of the future unexpected events. So wherever there is any future unexpected events, for example, one example was given for the loss of fire. So there can be insurance for the loss of fire, but when it comes to the calculation of the actual loss incurred, in that situation, the actuarial work may not be required because the fire may have been occurred at the location of the client. So where insurance company will send their surveyor to assess the loss, and then they will file the claim. Basis that insurance company will pass the claim. So in that process, actuary's role will not come, but actuary's role comes when they issue the policy to define the premium. But again, that's not part of employee benefits. I have covered that aspect to just to clarify your thought, but that is one of the work which is there for the actuaries to calculate the premium. In employee benefits, there are various examples of employee benefits, like salary is one example, gratuity, leave encashment. What other example can come to your thoughts? Yeah, ESOP is there, sweating is there, yes. HR, yeah, that's nice. Provision for Provident funds. Yeah, that's also a nice example. Bonus. Okay, so bonus, can you more elaborate? Like, do you know, is there any act where statutory we are required to pay any bonus? Payment of Bonus Act 1965. Right. Do you have any idea whether that act is going to be replaced by something? Or have you heard or have you read anywhere that, because currently we have Payment of Bonus Act, but in future, likely future, whether that act is going to remain or it is going to replace with something else? Do you have any idea on that? Okay, so it is going to be replaced with the code on wages. So what the second part, which is, you can say, the social security code, because in the social security code, what government is doing, they are coming up with the different 4 labor codes, where one is the code on wages, which was passed in the parliament in 2019, and it is pending to be implemented. As of now, it is not implemented. Once it is implemented, it will subsume the payment of bonus act as well within that. Okay, so similarly, we have the social security code, where social security code will capture various different labor laws like gratuity, provident fund, ESIC, etc. There are various labor laws like maternity benefit. So all these will be now captured into one single umbrella of the social security code. But again, this is passed in the parliament, but yet to be implemented. If we talk about our today's agenda and the today's discussion points, first we will talk on the introduction and the importance of actuarial valuation. That why actuarial valuation is required, whether we as a auditors. So let's say today you are a chartered accountant students. So today you are maybe having a role of auditor, but tomorrow you can be CFO or a finance controller in any organization, or you can go into any other field. So whether it is a relevant topic for you or not. So you may say, I am a CA student. Why I should learn about the actuary? So you should know whether it is important for you to know about this topic. Then question comes, if it is important, then how the actuarial valuation is conducted. Some practical example we will see, and how the assumptions are set, and what is the role of auditor to check how they can test check the assumptions. Then, based on our experience, I will discuss the practical points in the actuarial valuation, which is like the common questions of the auditors and the companies. So, what are the points to watch out to in that? Then we will discuss on the impact of social security code and also touch base on the employee stock option plans for some of the key aspects. Wherever you feel that some topic is not making sense to you, you want more details, or you want some other topic to be covered which is connected to that. So feel free to raise your voice and discuss, because I don't want this is to be a one-way communication. It should be a two-way communication. So we all should be learning at the same time. This is one of the biggest reason why we are discussing on the actuarial valuation topic, which is covered under the AS 15. So FRRB stands for the, can any one of you know it is related to ICI Chartered Accountant Institute, FRRB. If any of you have heard about the FRRB.
किसी ने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट का मेरे साथ रिव्यू किया क्या बाहर किसी कंपनी के साथ फाइनेंशियल
reporting review board? Yeah. So this is the financial reporting review board set up by the ICI. Their role is to like check the company's financials and draw down the deficiencies in the different accounting standards. So when they took various accounts and found which accounting standard have the concerns, so in that AS 15 was one standard where they found the major concern other than the cash flow statement. Similarly, in case of Ind AS 19 also, that when it comes to Ind AS, we have Ind AS 19 on employee benefits. So in that also they found various issues. So we will talk on what are those issues, how they can be solved. Now we see what is the objective of the standard and what is covered in the AS 15 and Ind AS 19. So whenever I talk about the AS 15 and Ind AS 19, both are more or less similar. What are the key differences that we will cover later on as a auditor that we should be aware of? So just to ask, how many of you have ever read in your maybe CA final or anywhere AS 15 or Ind AS 19 till now? Not a single member have read about the AS 15. Okay, so it is a totally new topic for you. The Ind AS 19 you have read. So whatever you remember from that, can you tell me? Right or wrong doesn't matter.
Gratuity valuation, leave encashment valuation.
Yeah, and something more or whatever you can remember. See again, right or wrong, nobody will judge. So whatever, if any one of you have read about this topic of AS 15 or Ind AS 19, only that part. Okay. Have you ever read about, okay, like you all are in, like some of you are must be in the audits, right? So have you done any audit of, like in the financial statements when you are reading, have you ever seen a term of actuarial gain and loss? You have seen actuarial gain and loss. Okay, so in that you have seen.
Disclosure part.
Yeah. Okay, in the disclosure part you have read the actuarial gain and loss. Okay, next one. Have you understood anything from that or just a word it is mentioned? Like इसका क्या मतलब हो सकता है ऐसा कुछ?
तो ऐसा होता है कि प्रोविजन बनाती है कंपनी
Okay.
ग्रेजुटी पेमेंट के और एक्चुअल पेमेंट के बीच का डिफरेंस.
Okay, fine. This is one of the breakup of the actuarial gain and loss. Fine. We will discuss this more in detail in the later part. So if we talk about the what is covered in the AS 15 and Ind AS 19, this is applicable for both of the standards. So the accounting standard have bifurcated the employee benefits in 4 different parts. First one is the short-term benefit. So as the name suggests, any benefit which is paid to employee within 12 months from the reporting date. So that benefit is classified as a short-term benefit. Short-term means छोटे समय में दिया जा रहा है short term. So examples are like salary, any short-term leave policies. For example, if company have any leave policy where employee can carry forward the leave in the next year. After that, it will lapse. So if this is kind of any leave policy company have, then it is classified as a short-term leave policy, short-term benefit. Other benefit is like maternity leave, which is governed by the Maternity Benefit Act, where any payments made to the female employees while they are on the maternity leave, it is classified as a short-term employee benefit. And the accounting standard says that we need to further bifurcate these leaves in 2 type of leaves. One is the accumulating leave, like the leave which can be carry forwarded, accumulating, and there can be non-accumulating leave which cannot be carry forward. So maternity leave or paternity leave, they are kind of leave which cannot be carry forwarded. वो जब भी इवेंट होगा तभी उसका बेनिफिट मिलेगा, उसके आगे पीछे नहीं मिलेगा. So it is called as a non-accumulating leave. So accounting standard says for non-accumulating leave, you need to record the expense on the occurrence of event. We don't have to make any provision in advance. We need to account for the expense when that event occurs. But in case of accumulating leave, कि leave आप आगे carry forward कर सकते हो. So in such cases, for example, company give you 7 days of sick leave, for example, okay? And if you don't utilize those 7 days, employee can accumulate and carry forward in the next year. In the next year, if they don't use, it will lapse. Let's say this is the policy. So what will happen? They are allowed to carry forward. So it means it is an accumulating leave. In case of accumulating leave, we need to classify it as a short-term benefit and needs to make a provision as per the normal accrual basis. It doesn't require any actuarial valuation. Within the accumulating leaves also, there can be encashable leave and non-encashable leave. So example of encashable leave could be, so let's say those 7 days of sick leave, company policy says at the end of next year, if you don't utilize, we will give you encashment. आपको उसका पैसा मिल जाएगा. So it is an encashable leave. But if this is a non-encashable, okay, if it is a non-encashable leave, it is given in the accounting standard as a accumulating but non-vesting. where you don't get the money out of that leave, cash payout. So accounting standard says for both type of such leaves, we need to make a provision. For the benefit which is non-vesting, we need to make a provision for the future expected utilization, कि आप अगले साल में उसमें से कितना छुट्टी यूटिलाइज कर लेंगे. So for that part we take the provision amount. The next benefit could be, these are like monetary benefit. There could be non-monetary benefits also. Like for example, company may have provided its own house to some of the employees. So this is a kind of the non-monetary benefit. So whatever expense arising on those, we need to charge off to the P&L as a short-term benefits. So what are the post-employment benefits? Can any one of you give you the, like as the name is there, post-employment benefit? What could be the type of post benefit? What is the name suggest? Okay, so I heard one single voice after retirement. So this should be not just after retirement, it is after the employment. Because retirement, one can say after age of 58 or 60. But employment means आप 30 years में कंपनी छोड़ के जा रहे हो, 35 में जा रहे हो, 40 में जा रहे हो, कभी भी जा रहे हो, या एम्प्लॉय की डेथ हो रही है, कुछ भी सिचुएशन हो सकती है. Because earlier the standard was post retirement. If you see the US gap, see, because today we are confined to India, and but if you read the US gap, there they have the concept of post retirement benefits also. So in India also earlier the scope was post retirement benefits, which was changed to post employment long back. Okay, so in case of post employment benefits, they are paid after the end of the employment. So the examples are like gratuity, which is governed by the Gratuity Act. Pension. So do you know where the pension is covered? What are the examples of pension? If any one of you heard about the pension anywhere? Okay, yeah, there I think this comes from the income tax. Yeah. Okay, so that was the income tax part. But we are talking like gratuity, we have payment of gratuity act. Okay, for pension, do you know any act or anything which governs the pension? Okay, so see, we all should know about that because we are from the finance background. Okay, so pension for the private sector, as such, there is no pension rules, but for the private sector and the government sector both, there is a concept of NPS. Yeah, so I hope now you can recall it, right? So in that NPS, we all contribute, and at the end of the retirement or superannuation, we get some pension from that. One part is commuted pension. So okay, what is commuted pension? आप सबने पढ़ा इनकम टैक्स में कम्यूटेड पेंशन, बट वो होता क्या है कम्यूटेड पेंशन? एक साथ ले सकते हैं, एकदम बराबर. एग्जाम्पल के लिए मान लीजिए आपका मंथली पेंशन जो बन रहा था वो 1 लाख बन रहा था, एग्जाम्पल के लिए, इस पर एक्चुअरियल कैलकुलेशंस एंड द एन्युटी रेट्स. सो बेस्ड ऑन दैट 1 लाख रुपीज 40,000 आपने कम्यूट कर लिया कि आप अभी आगे का पेंशन 60,000 लेंगे, बट 40,000 मल्टीप्लाई बाय समथिंग, that lump sum you have taken on the retirement date itself. So that multiplier is calculated by actuaries. That is called as a commutation factor. So all that is not part of our subject matter, but as a finance students and finance professional, we should know about that. Okay. And for that uncommuted part, they will get the regular pension. But coming back to the accounting, so NPS is a kind of defined contribution plan, because it is important for us to know the classification from the company's point of view, that NPS, or let's say the Provident Fund contribution. Because when we contribute to Provident Fund, from the Provident Fund there are two parts going, employer contribution, employee contribution, दोनों का 12% जाता है, ठीक है. Now, do you know out of the employer contribution of 12%, there are further two bifurcation. One goes to Provident Fund, one goes to pension. Out of that 12% of employer PF, something goes to pension, something goes to PF. So there is also one employee pension scheme. Okay, so for those who are not covered under NPS, there is a EPS, employee pension scheme. Okay, from the corporate's angle, both of these are defined contribution plan. Why these are defined contribution plan? Because whatever amount we contribute to the government, because for both of these scheme, government is like having their own organization to run this scheme and pay the benefits to the members. Okay, like for NPS we have the PFRDA, for employee provident fund we have the EPFO, employee provident fund organization. So these contributions, they are fixed in the amount. Every year we pay the contribution and there is no further obligation on the company. Wherever there is a further obligation and that our contribution amount is not fixed, that amount, that benefit is called as a defined contribution plan. Okay. There is another classification within the post-employment benefits. Can you name it? Like there is a defined contribution plan. There is one more type of benefit. Defined. Yeah, ESI is there. That is also under the defined contribution plan. If any of you have read any balance sheet of the like any annual report, then below the defined contribution plan, you would have found the defined benefit plan. Have you read this word defined benefit plan in any annual report or any notes to accounts? Defined benefit plan. Okay. So these terminologies, all these four terminologies, short-term, post-employment, other long-term. Within post-employment, you will see the defined contribution plan, defined benefit plan in the accounting policy of any company. So any annual report you pick, within that you will see the accounting policy for the short-term employee benefits, post-employment benefits in the defined contribution plan and the defined benefit plan. Let me show you some annual report. I'm not sure why I'm unable to. Okay, that annual report I will show later on. Then third benefit, we have the other long-term benefits. Other long-term is a long-term benefit where benefit is paid beyond 12 months from the balance sheet date, but it is not a post-employment plan. So example is like long-term leave absences. That company have any leave policy where leave can be carried forwarded in the future years. And they are like encashable on the separation, or employee can utilize the leave without any encashment. So if we have any leave policy where we can carry forward the leave for the future years, not just the short term, but the future years, we need to make the provision as per the actuarial valuation for such other long-term plans. Similarly, for post-employment plans, the actuarial valuation was required for the defined benefits, because in the defined benefit, there is an uncertainty that how much benefit will be paid in the future years. But in defined contribution plan, there is no uncertainty. The contribution amount is fixed. Yeah, so our expense is fixed. So there is no uncertainty. That's why there is no actuarial valuation required in the defined contribution plan. But defined benefit plan, there is uncertainty. Can some of you tell me what is the uncertainty in the gratuity benefit? Why it is a defined benefit plan? Any thought you can please, if you can think of? Yeah, so that's a one. So you can keep your mobile over here. Okay. So the question is, the gratuity benefit is classified as a defined benefit plan. So in the defined benefit plan, there is uncertainty involved in the benefit. So what is the uncertainty you can see in the gratuity benefit?
Maybe the employee leaves the organization anytime.
Yeah,
There is a major problem.
that's one of the very good example he has given, because the tenure of employee is uncertain. We don't know he will stay for 2 years or 20 years or 10 years. Right. So this is one of the very key uncertainty. And what is the other uncertainty you can think of? Okay. Yeah. Any other example you can give from the back, my friend? Yeah. Yeah. Any example of the uncertainty which can be faced in case of the gratuity benefit by the company? Like one example was very good for the uncertainty of the tenure. Yeah. Okay. The other uncertainty is the last drawn salary, because gratuity is based on the last drawn salary. So what will be the last drawn salary? That we don't know. The another uncertainty is if our gratuity is funded, like we have invested the money with some insurance company like LIC or other insurance company. So how much interest they will earn? What will be the income on that? So that is one another uncertainty is there. That's why due to these uncertainties of the interest rate, salary escalation rate, attrition rate, we need to do the actuarial valuation to make the provision. And these assumptions can be revisited in the future years if company feels that assumptions which we have made earlier, they needs to be changed now because they are not making true in the future years. So assumptions can be revisited to true up or true down the liability. And this actuarial valuation is required for post-employment plan. Termination benefits are like whenever company announces some, for example, voluntary retirement scheme, VRS, and like employees have to leave the organization and any compensation is paid to them. So that kind of benefit is called a termination benefit. And whenever we announce such plan or we incur any cost related to that, then we incur any restructuring cost. Then we need to account for the termination benefit. And for termination benefit, no actuarial valuation is required. So actuarial valuation is required only for other long-term plans and post-employment plan, which is classified as a defined benefit. Okay. One example of employee benefit was given as a ESOP. Okay. So do you know any of you that what is the governing accounting standard for the ESOP? Like here we are discussing on AS 15 and Ind AS 19. So whether first question ESOP is covered under this? If yes, okay. If not, what else? Where it is covered? ESOP. The Ind AS? Yeah, so number may not be right, but the description is very right. So it is covered under Ind AS 102, share-based payment. And as there is a specific Ind AS, it is not covered over here. This is about Ind AS, but when it comes to the accounting standards, the old accounting regime, there is no specific accounting standard. We have one guidance note. Guidance note on share-based payment issued by the ICAI. Okay. So this is all about the scope of the accounting standard, where it is covered, which kind of benefits require the actuarial valuation. Now this is a quick snapshot of the gratuity applicability. Why we are discussing for the gratuity? Because gratuity benefit is applicable to like almost all organizations, because it applies to all entities, all organizations, establishments, even it is a private limited, proprietor, partnership, any organization having 10 or more employees. So wherever employees are more than 10, gratuity act is applicable. It is once applicable, it is applicable always, even if employee falls below 10. And it is paid on the separation. Whenever employee separates from the company retirement, resignation, death, we pay the gratuity. But for case of death, the 5-year condition doesn't require. And when we pay the gratuity, like it is 15 days of salary for each year of service. Okay, now I have a question. What is the current limit? Although it is mentioned over here, what is the current limit for the gratuity? 20 lakhs. So currently the gratuity maximum limit is 20 lakhs. Okay, do any of you know earlier how much it was? Sorry? Like currently it is 20 lakhs. Earlier, what was the limit? So earlier the limit was 10 lakh rupees, and currently the maximum gratuity limit is 20 lakhs. And the key point to mention over here is, if employer wants, they can pay the higher benefits. But this is the statutory required limit. If company have a policy, they can pay the higher benefits. So as an auditor, our role is to ensure, first to check what is the company's policy, whether they have the benefit in line with the Gratuity Act 1972, or they have any benefit scheme which is other than or beneficial than the Gratuity Act. For example, if they have a benefit scheme, like default scheme is 15 divided by 26, but if company scheme says 21 days of salary for each year of service, but provision they have made as per the 15 days, that's wrong because they have under provided. So as an auditor, we need to ensure that correct provision is made based on the applicable benefit scheme of the company. So if the company is covered under the PF, because PF is covered based on the 20 employees. So if the company is covered under the PF, they are automatically covered under the gratuity. So we should see that they have made the appropriate provision. Now question comes, why we should make the actuarial valuation only for the gratuity? So one point we discussed earlier, it is a post-employment plan. It is a defined benefit plan. That's why we need to do actuarial valuation. So there is a question how it can be done. So for actuarial valuation, they have given one method of projected unit credit method. So this is one method as per which we are required to calculate the amount. There are 3 other methods for we actuaries to calculate any actuarial valuation provisions. So that's why there are total 4 methods. So that's why they have prescribed the PUCM method. Other methods are not for the accounting purpose, they are for the some other purposes for funding and some other work. There is one more common question between the members, that for if company is having all employees less than 5 years of service, so shall we make the provision for them? Company may say employee have not completed 5 years, shall we make or not any provision? So answer to this is given in the accounting standard itself, para 70, which states that if the benefit is not vested, they have not completed 5 years, still we need to make the provision. And while making this provision, we need to allow for the future expected attrition. That out of this cohort of, let's say, 100 employees, 40 will leave by the 5th year. So you make the provision for the proportionate basis. What is the expected amount to be paid? Then in the standard on auditing SS 620, it says that we need to use the work of the actuaries expertise for the calculation of defined benefit plans. So there is one gap difference also in case of AS 15 and Ind AS 19. The gap difference is in case of AS 15, all expenses related to the post-employment plans or all the plans, it is recognized in the profit and loss account. But in case of Ind AS 19, any actuarial gain or loss which arises on the post-employment plans, it is to be recognized in the other comprehensive income, OCI, rather than the PNL. Because in case of Ind AS 19, we have 2 PNL, like one is PNL other is the OCI. Then we have the, like this OCI is also part of the reserves, right? So in case of Ind AS 19, it says that for actuarial gain and loss, we need to recognize the amount in the OCI rather than the P&L. But for the other long-term benefit also, we have discussed that we need to do the actuarial valuation, the third benefit criteria. So the standard says for those other long-term benefits, the actuarial gain loss continue to go to the P&L account. So the OCI concept is there only for the post-employment plan defined benefits. This is one of the key concern I have found in the various annual reports, where company have classified in the significant accounting policy that X benefit is a other long-term plan. Then below that they have mentioned actuarial gain loss is recognized in the other comprehensive income, which is a wrong statement. In the accounting policy, we need to give that for other long-term benefit plans, it is recognized in the P&L. For post-employment plan defined benefit scheme, we need to mention it is recognized under the OCI. Actuarial valuation is done through the PUCM method. So all these things needs to be mentioned in the significant accounting policy, right? Because these are the key concerns which are found by the that Financial Reporting Review Board also, and some other analysis which we have conducted on the annual reports. Now we will discuss on the classification and the definition of the company's SMC and non-SMC. Can any of you give me the full form of SMC?
Small and medium sized company.
Yeah, small and medium sized company. And any of you have read this definition earlier, which is there on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you understand the definition also, right? Okay, so can you tell me whether there are so why this definition criteria? Is there any specific reason?
There are several compliances which are to be followed in non-SMC companies, but the SMC companies are exempted from following such regulations in the company's equity value.
Okay, that's very nice. So can you give any example of any AS which is exempted for SMC, if you remember? Okay, any of you remember that any one example of relaxation given for the SMC companies?
Maybe they are exempted from cash flow statement.
Yeah, right. So AS3 is exempted for the SMC company, but at the same time for cash flow statement, there is some requirement specifically given in the Companies Act as well. So I believe sir can give more highlight on the cash flow requirement. Like under Companies Act.
By small companies and one-person companies, they are not required to prepare their cash flow statements. And AS3, I think that list.
Yeah, so yeah, SMCA is exempted.
This March notifications which you have mentioned.
Yeah.
So that mentions that on which entities AS3 is not applicable.
Right. So that's why this notification is very important, and this is based on the turnover borrowing criteria, like borrowing 50 crore and turnover 250 crore, SMC and non-SMC. So why we are discussing it over here, this classification criteria of the like limits, etc., it is different for companies and the non-company entities. Company means private limited. Non-company entity means proprietor, partnership, LLP, and all. So for the non-corporate entities, okay, tell me whether this criteria for non-corporate entities is given by the MCA or which body, if you are aware of. For like here it is given by the MCA. Yeah, so for non-corporate entities, it is given by the ICA. So why I am highlighting, because for the non-corporate entities, the criteria is different. Okay, here we have 2 criteria. For entities, we have the 4 different criteria, and the exemption is also different. Sometimes we chartered accountants mix up both. Like नॉन कॉर्पोरेट एंटिटी का जो एग्जम्पशन है उसको अपन समझते हैं कि वो कंपनी का एग्जम्पशन है, वो दिमाग लेके अपन कंपनी वाले को जवाब दे देते हैं, तो वो नहीं होना चाहिए. इफ यू आर कंसल्टिंग ए कंपनी, we need to check the exemption given under the SMC non-SMC exemption rather than the entities. If you are consulting any entity, then go for the entities exemptions, because now for non-company entities there are various exemptions given to the level 4 entity, which is very small company, or one can say micro entity. So first we will talk on the AS 15 applicability. What are the relaxations given in the AS 15 to the companies? So if I have to summarize whether actuarial involvement is required or not, or what is the exemption given. So first we talk on whether the provision is required or not. So for all the 4 type of benefits which we have discussed, like short-term, post-employment, other long-term and termination, provision is required for all the benefits, but actuarial valuation is required only for the post-employment plan and the other long-term plan. Within the post-employment plan, the actuarial valuation is mandatory for the small companies as well as the large companies, which is non-SMC company. But for small and medium companies, the relaxation is given for the detailed disclosures. The detailed notes to accounts are exempted for the SMC criteria of the company. They need to give in the annual report or the financials. In the significant accounting policy, they need to give about the benefit classification, and in the notes to account, they need to mention that they are a SMC company. So they have the relaxation, they have not given the full disclosure. But they need to mention the assumptions considered and the provision amount. That as per actuarial valuation, these are the assumptions and this is the provision amount. This needs to be disclosed for the SMC company, but for non-SMC company, the detailed disclosure is mandatory, like the one you have read for the detailed disclosure. Here we discuss on the non-company entities. So like I told, there are 4 different levels over here for the non-company entities. Like level 4 is also known as a micro level, where the turnover is less than 10 crore and borrowing is less than 2 crore. For level 2 and 3, it is between 10 crore to 250 crore and the borrowing is 2 crore to 50 crore, so on. So what happens? The exemption is also different for these 4 levels, and for level 2 and 3, the exemption is combined. So if we talk on the exemption with regard to AS 15, because for separate AS there is a separate exemption, but over here our focus is on the AS 15. So in AS 15, there are certain exemptions given to these 4 different level of companies. So first question is whether they are required to make the provision or not. So there is no exemption from the provision. Provision तो बनाना है आपको. Provision कैसे बनाना है उसकी exemption है. Whether we need to go to actuary or not, there is an exemption for that. Okay. So provision is required for all 4 type of entities, but if it is a level 4 organization, whatever is the number of employees, they are exempted from actuarial valuation provision. They can make their own calculation of provision and account for that. But if they want, they can do as per the actuarial valuation as well. But in case of level 2 and 3 organizations, there is a limit of 50 employees. If employee count is more than 50 for level 2 and 3 companies, then they need to mandatorily make the actuarial valuation provision if the employee count is more than 50. And if employee count is less than 50, then they are exempted from the actuarial valuation. Now I have a question to you. Let's say there is a ABC Limited, ABC Private Limited, you can say, having number of employees 15, okay, and turnover of 40 crores and borrowing of 60 crore. ABC Private Limited with a 40 crore turnover and borrowing of 60 crore. So first question is whether they are required to make any actuarial valuation provision for the, yes, they are required because there is, yeah, it is a, and why non-SMC? Because of the borrowing more than 50 crore. So it is very nice that even if turnover is less than 250 crore, but borrowing has breached that 50 crore limit. So that's why it is a non-SMC category and the full detailed disclosure is required. Now let's say reverse the situation, same ABC Limited, 15 employees, but now turnover is 60 crore, borrowing is 40 crore. Okay, so in this situation where borrowing is the borrowing is 40 crore, turnover 60 crore, in this situation for this organization ABC Limited, whether actuarial valuation is required or not?
No, sir.
Actuarial valuation not required. So this is wrong. So what we have discussed over here, if it is a small and medium company, तो आपका बोरोइंग 40 करोड़ हो गया, टर्नओवर 60 करोड़ हो गया, यानी कि दोनों क्राइटेरिया सेटिस्फाई हो गए, एसएमसी की डेफिनेशन में आप आ गए. ओके, सो रिलैक्सेशन इज गिवन ओनली फॉर द डिस्क्लोजर, कि आपको डिटेल नोट्स टू अकाउंट नहीं देना, बट प्रोविजन हैज टू बी देयर एज पर द एक्चुअल वैल्यूएशन पीयूसीएम मेथड. So there is no relaxation given from the actuarial valuation. Okay. Now coming to the.
So before Karthikeya comes to the next slide, there are certain participants who are online.
Yeah.
So is there any query from online participants? If there is no query, then I will ask few queries from you, because I understand that you understand everything.
That's very valid point.
Yeah. So Rohit Mittal.
हेलो.
हाँ रोहित जी. तो आप अब रोहित शर्मा के जैसे 50 लगाना है आपको T20 में. Karthikeya will have some query from him. Rohit.
या रोहित जी, एक सवाल है मेरा आपके लिए कि जैसे मान लीजिए कि कंपनी कोई लीव पॉलिसी है उनकी, जिसके अंदर लीव कैरी फॉरवर्ड होती है अगले 5 साल तक. 5 साल के बाद में वो लीव लैप्स हो जाएगी, एंड ऑन द सेपरेशन ऑफ एम्प्लॉय और बिफोर separation they can encash the leave, they can avail the leave, or after the separation they can encash, but after 5 years it will lapse. So this kind of leave will be classified under which criteria? Like we have discussed 4 criteria. One is short-term benefit, post-employment, other long-term, and the termination benefit. So this type of leave policy will be classified in which of the criteria?
I think it is other long-term criteria.
Yeah. So any specific reason for that?
Because it would, as a limit of 5 years.
Yeah, that's right. Because it is more than 1 year, that's why it is a other long-term benefit. Now the same question, how do we make the provision? Like, can we do our own calculation, charge of the P&L, or actuarial valuation is required?
Actuarial valuation is required.
Okay. Now within the same example, I will ask 2 other participants.
Yes, Sandesh.
So I request Sandesh to unmute. हेलो संदेश जी, आप तक हमारा संदेश जा रहा है क्या?
Yes sir. Yes sir.
ओके. तो मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है कि in the same example, as we have concluded that yes, for the leave, we need to make the actuarial valuation provision. Fine. Now the question is
Yes, sir.
whether company is required to make the detailed disclosure for this kind of leave benefits. Like
Yes,
we
sir.
have, okay.
Same as gratuity required.
So the question is for this benefit, whether detailed disclosures are required or not.
Yes, sir. Detailed disclosure is required.
Okay, so I would like to clarify it over here to you and all other our participants. For other long-term benefits, it doesn't depend for all class of organizations. Small, medium, or non-small and medium, or for everyone, disclosure is not required. If company wants to give on their own as a additional disclosure, तो वो जितना मर्जी disclosure दीजिए. Otherwise, as per accounting standard, the detailed disclosures are not required for the other long-term benefits. The detailed disclosure is required only for the defined benefit plan post-employment for the non-SMC. Now convert the same to the Ind AS, let's say, if this is an Ind AS case, okay, what will happen? In case of Ind AS, this classification will not come. SMC, non-SMC, everything is Ind AS, same company, okay? In that case, what will happen? This line will delete. SMC, all other will remain same, like provision is required for every benefit. Actuarial valuation will be required for post-employment and the other long-term plan, but detailed disclosure will be required only for the post-employment plans. For other long-term plan, there is no detailed disclosure required in case of Ind AS 19 as well. Okay, because this is one of the key concern for the auditors. What is applicable, how much it is applicable, to whom it is applicable. Because see, how the valuation is done, it is by the actuaries. But first they have to approach to actuaries. Then only the how part will come. So if we are not clear on the first part, which is the applicability, then everything will come on us, that as a auditor what we have done. If you are not an auditor, you are in the capacity of the finance controller. Because ultimately, okay, you tell me who is ultimately responsible for the preparation of financial statements? Management, right? So ultimate responsibility lies on the management. But as an auditor, we are giving the true and fair view. So it is our responsibility also to ensure that AS is followed. If it is not followed, we should convey them, we should qualify the audit report, right? Now coming on to the next part of the calculations and some summary of what we have discussed. So gratuity is covered based on 10 employees. It is a post-employment plan. Leave provisions, it is a other long-term benefit, but leave provisions are governed by the SOP Establishment Act. Like for gratuity, we have Gratuity Act. For leave, we have the SOP Establishment Act and the Factories Act. So these are the two government regulations which talks about the leave provisions. So company need to ensure their leave policy is within the line and the purview of these acts. In case of gratuity, for less than 5-year service employees also we need to make a provision, because this is one of the key concerns there in the financial statements, and provision is to be done as per the PUCM method. So this is one snapshot of the gratuity benefits. Like if we go from the top to down, so first we have the regulation, like Gratuity Act, 5-year requirement, 20 lakhs limit. Then when we go to the accounting part, accounting is to be done as per the actuarial valuation AS 15 or Ind AS 19. The accrual principle is there. We need to do the valuation for all entities. Even it is a small company or large company, everyone we need to do. Relaxation from valuation is there only for the entities, small entities. Okay, for company there is no relaxation from the valuation. Now the taxation part, it is very critical. The okay, my question is, let's say company have done this actuarial valuation. In our example, the closing provision is coming to, let's say, 5 crore rupees. They have charged to PNL account debit to the provision. Okay, and the question is this 5 crore PNL hit, whether it is allowed under the income tax or not. It is not allowed. Okay. When this is allowed? On actual payment basis. Or you are saying something. You are saying something else, I think. No, you are right actually. Okay, fine. So there are two occasions when this gratuity can be allowed as an expense. One occasion is on the payment basis. The second occasion is when we contribute to the approved fund. Like we have given the section over here, like it is allowed on the payment basis. Next is on the contribution to approve the gratuity fund, section 36(1)(5). But at the same time, the third point which many of our friends are not aware, that as per rule 103, under income tax rule 1962, there is a maximum limit that company cannot contribute more than 8.33% of the annual salary to this approved gratuity fund. Okay, it is not like कि 5 साल आपने कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट नहीं किया, अचानक से लिक्विडिटी आया, आपने साथ में इकट्ठा जमा करा दिया. So that is not allowed. The maximum cap is 8.33%. There is one more rule which states that if any director is having more than 5% shareholding in the company, they cannot be part of this approved fund. This is given under Rule 102 of the Income Tax Rules 1962. When we talk on the auditing parts,
but that is for the purpose of income tax.
Income tax purpose.
But so far as valuation is concerned, that will be included.
Yeah, for accounting valuation purpose, directors has to be included whether shareholding is 1% or 100%, because they are also employees, even they are KMPs. Okay, so for KMP, there is a AS 18 in dash 24, right? So for KMP in the financials, we need to disclose the employee benefit expense, including this post-employment plan. So if you download 100 annual reports, in 85 annual reports, you will find a line, due to practical difficulty, we are not giving the KMP expense for the actuarial valuation gratuity and leave. But this is not a practical difficulty for actuaries. This could have been the practical difficulty of company to ask to the actuary. So if you are a auditor of your client, then I would request to be in the 15% bracket rather than the 85%. If you ask your actuary to give the KMP expense, they can very well give. Similarly, this is the one snapshot for the leave. Like leave regulation is as per the Shop Act and the Factories Act. And the actuarial valuation is to be done or not, it is based on the short term or long term. If the long term carry forward of leave is allowed, we need to do actuarial valuation. If it is a short term, no actuarial valuation, direct provision as per the accrual basis. Again, taxation part is same. The provision is disallowed. Okay, can you tell me one company, they again have the 5 crore provision for the leave. They approach the LIC or any other insurance company to set up one group leave policy also, because they have recently set up the gratuity policy based on our discussion. Because like one of our member became the CFO उन्होंने देखा कि यार 5 करोड़ का खर्चा क्लेम करने को मिल जाएगा, तो इसकी पॉलिसी ले लेते हैं, ठीक है। तो ग्रेचुटी पॉलिसी उन्होंने ले लिया। अभी बात आई लीव की। लीव ऑल्सो दे हैव a hit of 5 crore rupees. The question is, can they take that kind of that group leave policy and claim the expense? The answer is no. There is no such regulation or section giving a deduction for this kind of contribution. So contribution to approved gratuity fund is allowed, but for leave kind of policies, no investment is allowed as an expenditure. If company want to invest, they can invest only as an investment. इन्वेस्टमेंट आप कुछ भी करो, कहाँ भी करो, कितना भी करो, उसकी कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, बट आपको टैक्स में कोई प्रकार की उसकी छूट नहीं मिलेगी, राइट? बिकॉज सम टाइम कंपनी में बी ट्रैप्ड बाय सम रॉन्ग एडवाइस, सो वी नीड टू बी अवेयर ऑफ दैट. फॉर लीव पॉलिसीज देयर इज नो टैक्स बेनिफिट टू द कंपनी. Similarly, for the audit purpose, we have the SA 620 for the using the actuarial work, and again we have the financial reporting review boards comments that we need to follow these actuarial valuation provisions. This is one quick snapshot of the different states shop establishment act and the factories act. So if you read the Maharashtra, Karnataka or Delhi shop act, they states that we need to carry forward the leave in the future years up to 45 days. Like there is some annual credit of let's say 20 to 24 days, but this leave needs to be carry forwarded. Similarly, in the Rajasthan Shop Act and the Factories Act 1948, the carry forward limit is 30 days. Company need to allow the carry forward of leave up to 30 days, and Gujarat Shop Act have the 63 days limit. And in all of these states and the Factories Act, they have a provision of encashment of leave. So from the governance front, you can say the corporate governance or the labor law compliance. Currently, there are various organizations which don't follow this regulation. So there is enough scope for the department to rate those organizations to follow their compliances. But if we are a consultant,
आपकी कोई क्वेरी है क्या? तो या तो आप इधर ध्यान करो या उधर बातें कर लो.
so if
या बाहर चले जाओ उधर, तो क्या बात करो? क्या
so if we have any organizations where we are consulting to them, we need to ensure that from the labor law compliance angle also they are compliant, because accounting compliance is one angle, labor law compliance is second angle. Accounting compliance comes once company have some policy. मान लीजिए आपने ग्रेचुटी का प्रोविजन बना लिया, बट कंपनी ग्रेचुटी देती नहीं है लोगों को, बंदे छोड़ के जा रहे हैं, 5 साल कंप्लीट हो गए, वो ग्रेचुटी का पैसा दे नहीं रहे, तो दैट्स रॉन्ग. इट इज ए नॉन कंप्लायंस ऑफ द लेबर लॉ. तो उसका पेनल्टी आ जाता है, डायरेक्टर को जेल भी हो सकती है, बंदा कभी भी पैसा मांगने आ सकता है. सो कंपनी नीड टू एंश्योर दे फॉलो द लेबर कंप्लायंस. सिमिलरली फॉर द लीव, जहाँ पे आपको लीव कैरी फॉरवर्ड करने का रूल है, बट कई ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस आपको ऐसे मिलेंगे आपके ऑडिट के फेज में जहाँ पे वो लीव कैरी फॉरवर्ड नहीं करते. उनका पॉलिसी क्या रहेगा, 20 दिन का लीव मिलेगा साल का, ये साल में छुट्टी लो वरना लैप्स हो जाएगा. ऐसा आपको कई जगह पे पॉलिसी मिलेगा, बट इट्स नॉट एज पर द गवर्नमेंट शॉप एक्ट. As per the Shop Establishment Act, they need to allow for the carry forward of leave. And wherever there is a carry forward of leave, the provision requirement will kick in as per the actuarial valuation. So this is all about the leave actuarial valuation, why it is to be done. Now there is another example which we discussed in the other long-term phase, was the deferred incentive scheme, other long-term plan. For example, we give any bonus to the employees where bonus is paid in the installments. For example, we give a bonus of let's say 2 lakh rupees at the end of year, but this bonus is paid in the future. like 25% in the 4 years. So if this kind of scheme is there, then it also requires the actuarial valuation and the provision. So in this kind of scheme, what will happen? Full expense will be recognized now because service is already rendered, right? Like for example, March 22 service is already rendered. For this FY 21-22, you are giving a bonus of 2 lakh, but payout will happen in the future years. So accounting what says accrual basis. जब भी आपने सर्विस दिया खर्चा बुक करो. खर्चा बुक कभी होगा 21-22 में. कैसे बुक होगा? एक्चुअल वैल्यूएशन से होगा. अब वो एक्चुअल वैल्यूएशन कैसे होगा? इन दैट वी फॉलो द कैश फ्लो मेथड कि आपका पे आउट कभी होगा, व्हेन दैट फ्यूचर पे आउट इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू हैपन. विद इन दैट वी नीड टू चेक द कंपनी पॉलिसी एंड गेन अ फेयर अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि इन द फ्यूचर ईयर इफ द एम्प्लॉय लीव तो वो पैसा उसको मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा. मान लो 2 लाख का बोनस है, आप 2 साल के बाद छोड़ रहे हो तो 2 इंस्टॉलमेंट तो आपको मिल गई थी 25% की, बाकी 50% बाकी है. तो क्वेश्चन है कि वो 50% मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा. ऑब्वियसली कंपनी बोलेगी अगर आप छोड़ रहे हो तो नहीं मिलेगा. तो व्हेन द एक्चुअली मेक द प्रोविजन फॉर सच काइंड ऑफ बेनिफिट्स, they have to allow for the future attrition. To that extent, your provision will reduce. Your attrition rate is higher, provision will be lower. Right?
सर जैसे एम्प्लॉइज छोड़ के जा रहे हैं फर्म, उनका जो बोनस पेंडिंग है उनको नहीं मिलेगा.
वो नहीं मिलेगा.
How they can make an estimate that how many employees would leave and how many will.
So basically, this estimation is done based on the past experience. If company is very new, then it is based on the actuarial judgment because they may have some similar companies where in the industry they are working. So basis that they take the assumption. Now, one critical point over here. Let's say this kind of bonus is paid to only 20% of the staff strength. Let's say because this is a kind of a special bonus, okay, which is not paid to everyone, only to some specific people. पूरे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में 100 एम्प्लॉई है, वहां पे आप ग्रेचुटी लीव का एक्चुअल वैल्यूएशन कर रहे हो, ठीक है. तो हो सकता है कि वहां पे जो अजम्पशन हो एट्रिशन की वो अलग हो बिकॉज वो पूरे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को लागू होगी कि पूरे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में मान लो आपके 25% लोग छोड़ते हैं, बट आप वो नहीं बोल सकते कि वो 20 में से भी 25% लोग छोड़ेंगे. रीजन, पहली बात तो वो अगर अच्छा काम करे उसका पैकेज अच्छा होगा, उसका इंक्रीमेंट अच्छा होगा. तीसरी बात उसका रेम्यूनरेशन उसको नहीं मिलेगा लॉन्ग टर्म बोनस, तो वो नहीं छोड़ेगा. द प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ पर्सन लिविंग द एम्प्लॉय विल बी लो, सो योर assumption has to be lower than that जनरल assumption. तो ये कुछ लॉजिकल चीजें जो अपने को ध्यान है. आइडियली एक्चुअली आल्सो हैज टू टेक केयर ऑफ दिस थिंग, बट एज ए ऑडिटर इट इज आल्सो आवर ड्यूटी टू चेक फॉर द एप्रोप्रिएटनेस ऑफ assumption कि जो assumption अपन ले रहे हैं रिपोर्ट में वो एप्रोप्रिएट है, वो थोड़ा सेंसिबल assumptions है. So now we talk specific to the actuarial valuation assumptions, like basis whatever we discussed till now.
अभी तक किसी का कोई क्वेरी है? क्या भूतला, क्या मुंदला है तुम्हारी कोई क्वेरी नहीं है? तो हम पूछे फिर तुमसे कुछ पूछो भैया.
ओके, तो ये
कोई आप में से कोई भी जवाब दे सकता है.
हाँ,
और इवन फ्रॉम दी ऑनलाइन पार्टिसिपेंट्स.
ये अपना अभी तक जो डिस्कशन हुआ है इसके हिसाब से जब भी एक्चुअरियल वैल्यूएशन होता है तो इसमें क्या क्या assumptions हो सकती है, मतलब व्हाट कैन बी द पोटेंशियल assumptions.
सर एक तो हमें वही पास्ट ईयर एक्सपीरियंस के हिसाब से वो लेना पड़ेगा. और अगर आपने जैसे अभी कहा था कि ये जो स्पेशल बोनसेस है वो सिर्फ सब सारे स्टाफ को, इट इज़ नॉट अ जनरल पॉलिसी ऑफ द कंपनी, ये सिर्फ अगर स्पेशल लोगों को मिल रहा है तो जो अगर हमारा एट्रीब्यूशन रेट ज़्यादा रहेगा तो हमारा assumption रेट कम रहना चाहिए.
Okay, and what can, so this is one assumption, attrition rate. What can be other potential assumption for the actuarial valuation?
Tenure of the employer,
Yeah,
employee.
yeah, tenure of employee, yes. Okay, for going concern of company, as such no specific assumption is made because as a auditing we mentioned that we consider that company is a going concern company. It is a general assumption considered. So for going concern there is no specific assumption being allowed for over here. For tenure again it is covered within the attrition rate. कि आप attrition rate consider कर रहे हो कि 20% है, उसका मतलब होगा कि बंदा 4-5 साल रुकेगा. It is like WDV depreciation rate. आपका asset आपका 20% depreciation rate है, मतलब 5 साल का उसका useful life हो गया. वैसा ही एम्प्लॉय का है. आप बोलते हो कि 20% उसका attrition rate है, तो मतलब वो 5 साल रुकेगा कंपनी में on an average. ठीक है? Sorry? Yeah, that's very one important assumption, last on salary. So for that, we need to consider the salary escalation rate. कि salary कितना increment होगा future में. There is one more assumption. All these provisions which we make, they are based on the present value. अगर आप accounting standards पढ़े या आगे भी अपने CA फाइनल में पढ़ेंगे, तो जितने भी अपने provisions हैं AS के अंदर, वो सारे कैश वैल्यू पे होते हैं, प्रेजेंट वैल्यू पे नहीं होते. दो ही जगह जहाँ पे प्रेजेंट वैल्यू अलाउड है, एक तो एक्चुअरियल वैल्यूएशन वाला है, दूसरी जगह हो रहा है वो आप बताओ कौन सी जगह. आपने एएस पढ़े होंगे, इसमें आईपीसीसी में पढ़े होंगे, लीज में, तो वो अपने उसमें लॉन्ग टर्म लीज में रहता है. हाँ, एक और है इम्पेयरमेंट, एएस 20 इम्पेयरमेंट टेस्टिंग, वहाँ पे आप प्रेजेंट वैल्यू कर सकते हो. तो
इंड एस 109 में भी.
हाँ, इंडेक्स में तो बहुत जगह है, इसीलिए मैं बोला कि एएस तक अपना डिस्कशन अपन कंफाइन करते हैं, बिकॉज इंडेक्स हैव वेरी मच रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ द प्रेजेंट वैल्यू एंड द फेयर वैल्यू, बिकॉज इंडेक्स 109 हैव अ सिग्निफिकेंट रिक्वायरमेंट फॉर द दिस प्रेजेंट वैल्यू एंड ऑल. So what happens in case of this actuarial valuation, the amount is calculated as a present value. So this interest rate, which is the discount rate, is very important assumption. The another assumption is the mortality rate, death rate, कि कितने लोगों की death होगी एक साल में. So this is some snapshot of the some of the key assumptions. Like if you have the discount rate, so discount rate is based on the expected tenure of the employee, expected future tenure, कि employee आगे कितने साल और रुकेगा. जैसे अपना attrition rate मान लो 5% ही है, तो उसके हिसाब से आप बोल सकते हो कि लगभग 15 से 20 साल के बीच में रुकेगा, right? See, 20 year is based on the straight line method, but we have to consider the WDV method actually for this kind of calculation. And this is the source how this can be checked. Like there is a website of Financial Benchmark India Limited, जहाँ से आप check कर सकते हो, because these are the things from where the actuaries usually take. So some different actuary may have different source. Coming to the salary escalation rate and attrition rate, this is we need to give high reliance on the past trend, कि past में कितना increment हुआ था, past में कितना attrition rate हुआ है, वो हिसाब से आप check कर सकते हो. But it is not necessary कि past trend वो as it is आपको लेना है, कि पिछले एक साल में 6.5% है तो आप 6.5 लो, ऐसा नहीं है. आप past थोड़ा 2-4 साल का extra period लीजिए, उसको फिर आप कंपनी से डिस्कस कीजिए कि वो उसी डायरेक्शन में थोड़ा और बढ़ेगा या उसका एवरेज रहेगा, कैसा रहेगा. So it should be a sensible assumption. It should not be like कि अपन ने if we don't have any time or to do the detailed checking, we can just ask the management. ऊपर से उनको पता ही रहेगा कि भाई साल में 100 में से 15 आदमी छोड़ते हैं या 20-25 आदमी छोड़ते हैं.
क्या फर्क पड़ेगा अगर अट्रिशन रेट जो है वो 15% की जगह 2% ही ले रखी है? प्रोविजन ज्यादा बढ़ जाएगा. तो ये जहाँ पे थाउजेंड्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉइज हो, तो आप सोचिए कि कितना प्रोविजन फर्क पड़ सकता है. हमने देखा कई बार जैसे बैंक्स वगैरह के अंदर एक छोटी सी अजम्पशन का सीधा 500 करोड़ रुपए का फर्क पड़ रहा है.
राइट.
इस तरीके से इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स. अगर आपने ये जो बता रहे ना अट्रिशन रेट 2% की जगह मान लीजिए कि 10% की जगह 2% ही कर रखी है, तो उसकी वजह से, और मान लो जो भी दूसरी अजम्पशंस हैं वो थोड़ा भी आपने चेंज किया तो इट मे हैव ह्यूज इम्पैक्ट, करोड़ ऑफ रुपीस में उसका इम्पैक्ट हो सकता है.
एंड इनफैक्ट जो एट्रिशन रेट है इसका कास्केडिंग इफेक्ट होता है. वो कैसे? एट्रिशन रेट के हिसाब से आपका फ्यूचर टेन्योर डिसाइड होगा. वो फ्यूचर टेन्योर के हिसाब से आपका डिस्काउंट रेट डिफाइन होगा। डिस्काउंट रेट क्या होता है? गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी का यील्ड होता है। उसमें क्या होता है, जितना ज्यादा टेन्योर होगा उतना ज्यादा डिस्काउंट रेट रहता है। जैसे मान लो आप बैंक में जाते हो फिक्स डिपॉजिट कराने, आप 1 साल का एफडी कराओगे तो आपको रिटर्न मिलेगा मान लो 5%, 6%, एग्जाम्पल के लिए। वही आप उसको बोलोगे नहीं 5 साल का कराना है, तो जहाँ पे वो 5 था वो 5 की जगह 6.5 हो जाएगा, एग्जाम्पल। वही आप बोलोगे नहीं 10 नहीं, मेरे को 15 साल का कराना है, तो थोड़ा और बढ़ जाएगा। तो जितना लॉन्ग टर्म रहता है उसका डिस्काउंट रेट उतना ज्यादा होता है। तो एट्रिशन रेट में अगर आपका अजम्पशन आपने एक लिया है जो रीजनेबल नहीं है, उसकी वजह से आपका डिस्काउंट रेट पे कास्केडिंग इफेक्ट पड़ेगा। और इम्पैक्ट वो पॉजिटिव होगा कि नेगेटिव होगा वो बताना बहुत मुश्किल है फेस पे, बिकॉज वो क्या कंबाइंड इम्पैक्ट होता है। एक फैक्टर से हो सकता है कि इंक्रीज होगा, दूसरे फैक्टर से हो सकता है रिड्यूस होगा, तो हो सकता है कि वो ऑफसेटिंग इम्पैक्ट भी हो, बट कई केसेस में हो सकता है वो दोनों में एक ही डायरेक्शन में ऊपर ले जाने वाले हो, तो वो भयंकर इम्पैक्ट हो जाएगा। सो समटाइम इट इज ए compensating, sometimes it is a cumulative impact. Okay, this is one significant assumption for the purpose of the leave valuation. When we have the leave actuarial valuation, we need to allow for one leave availment rate कि एम्प्लॉय कितना छुट्टी यूटिलाइज करेंगे। जैसे मान लो आपका लीव बैलेंस अभी 30 दिन का है, अगले साल आपको कंपनी ने क्रेडिट किया 20 दिन, तो अभी आप मान लीजिए कंपनी में अगले साल में 20 से ज्यादा छुट्टी लेना चाहते हैं, तो उस केस में लीव यूटिलाइजेशन माना जाता है कि आप ओपनिंग में से कुछ आप यूज कर रहे हैं, कैरी फॉरवर्ड आपने यूज कर लिया, तो वो लीव अवेलमेंट। अभी जब आप लीव अवेलमेंट कर रहे हो, आप अपना ओपनिंग छुट्टी आप जब भी यूज कर रहे हो, तो उस समय पे आपको पूरा सैलरी मिलेगा, ग्रोस सैलरी। ऐसा नहीं है कि आप अवेल कर रहे हो तो कंपनी बोलेगी खाली बेसिक सैलरी देंगे या एचआर नहीं देंगे या ये काट के देंगे वो करके देंगे, ऐसा नहीं होगा, पूरा सैलरी आपको मिलेगा, राइट। तो उस केस में आपका जो प्रोविजन है वो सीटीसी के ऊपर होना चाहिए। ऐसा नहीं है कि आप खाली बेसिक सैलरी पे प्रोविजन कर दिया तो चल जाएगा। सो व्हेनेवर वी हैव एनी लीव एक्चुअरियल वैल्यूएशन, इट हैज 2 कंपोनेंट्स, इसमें एनकैशमेंट भी आएगा, अवेलमेंट भी आएगा। दिस इज वन स्नैपशॉट ऑफ द डेथ रेट कि डेथ रेट होता है जो प्री रिटायरमेंट है कि 60 की एज के पहले तो रिटायरमेंट एज काफी कम है, तो उसका इम्पैक्ट एक्चुअल वैल्यूएशन पे इतना नहीं होता। बट इफ वी हैव एनी कंपनी वेयर वी हैव द पोस्ट रिटायरमेंट स्कीम like pension or the post retirement medical plan, over there is a huge impact of the mortality rate. And recently in the 2021 there was a amendment in this mortality table from the IRDA, जिसकी वजह से प्रोविजन से वो कंपनियों के 15 से लेकर 20% तक बढ़े थे। So as a auditor we need to ensure if we have any organization जहाँ पे आपका पेंशन या पोस्ट रिटायरमेंट मेडिकल जैसा कोई प्लान है, तो वहां पे नया मोर्टेलिटी रेट यूज हो रहा है। So any confusion on the assumptions part? जो assumptions अपन ने डिस्कस की उसमें कोई कंफ्यूजन है आपको? Okay. Now we talk on one simple calculation example कि वो कैलकुलेशन होती क्या है, कि जो अपन ने बात किया कि PUCM मेथड, प्रोजेक्टेड यूनिट क्रेडिट मेथड, वो कैसे क्या होता है, कैसे वर्क करता है। So this is one simple example कि where employee have a service of 2 years with a 85,000 salary, and these are some valuation assumptions like discount rate 8%, salary escalation 6%, and so on, attrition rate of 10% per annum. So first what we need to calculate, we need to calculate the accrued amount. If we have to pay all the gratuities now, then accrued amount is like 15 divided by 26 into years of service, 2 years, multiply by that basic salary of 85,000. तो 98,000 आपका accrued amount आ गया जो आपको पे करना है अगर आज ही उसको देना है तो, irrespective of 5-year condition as of now. So what happens when we do the actuarial valuation? We first calculate the accrued amount. Then we project this accrued amount in the future till the retirement age. This 98,000 is projected with the salary escalation rate of 6%. कि एवरी ईयर आपका सैलरी 6% बढ़ रहा है, तो वो लास्ट में जाके कितना हो जाएगा accrued amount, वो कैलकुलेट किया. Based on this projected accrued amount, we apply the conditional probabilities of the attrition rate and the death rate. Why I am telling conditional probability? कि वो पहले जिंदा रहेगा तो आगे बढ़ेगा, ठीक है. बंदे को पहले कंपनी में रुकना पड़ेगा तो वो अगले साल छोड़ेगा. So in the first year, we apply the attrition rate, let's say 10%, and the death rate of let's say 0.10%. ठीक है. In second year, first we apply the probability of survival, then we apply the probability of exit. ऐसे ही तीसरे साल, चौथे, पांचवें साल में वो पहले क्यूमुलेटिव बेसिस पे पहले प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ एग्जिट लगेगा, उसके बाद में प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ सर्वाइवल. दोनों साथ में इकट्ठा चलेंगे वो. So now my question is, in this example, for the first 3 years over here, यहाँ पे ये अमाउंट खाली 100 रुपए और यहाँ पे सीधा 100 रुपए से जाके 8,500 हो गया. तो ऐसा क्या चमत्कार हुआ यहाँ पे कि ये इतना ज्यादा फर्क कैसे हो गया इसके अंदर? नहीं, मैं एग्जांपल एक बार आपको स्क्रीन दोबारा दिखा देता हूँ. ये अपना एग्जांपल है, ग्रेचुटी का एग्जांपल है, और कंपनी है वो ग्रेचुटी एक्ट फॉलो करती है, जो अपना डिफॉल्ट ग्रेचुटी एक्ट है. बराबर है.
सब लोग 1 मिनट के लिए होल्ड करें. कार्तिकेय विल बी बैक. ब्रदर और सिजी का बेटा. भगवान शिव के सन थे. तो कार्तिकेय जो है, जब भगवान शिव ने पूछा कि भाई कुछ एक सवाल था ना कि कौन पूरे विश्व के चक्कर काट के आना है, तो भगवान गणेश ने तो थोड़ी बुद्धिमानी दिखाई और शिव पार्वती का चक्कर काट दिया, और कार्तिकेय ने जो है विश्व का चक्कर लगाया पूरा. तो ये जो हमारे कार्तिकेय जी हैं, इन्होंने भी ये एक बार नहीं करी, 2 बार करी. तो बट आर्टिकलशिप जो है वो 2 बार करी है, तो ये भी थोड़ा लंबा चक्कर लगा के और फिर आर्टिकलशिप में आया. सो बेसिकली भगवान शिव की बुद्धि का तो हम, सॉरी, गणेश जी की बुद्धि का तो हम बोलते हैं, लेकिन कार्तिकेय का करेज कितना था ये आप देखिए. उनका जो वो कार्तिकेय है और जो ये कार्तिकेय है, इनका करेज कितना है कि आपको पूरे विश्व का चक्कर लगाना, तो करेज भी तो चाहिए ना उसके लिए, इतना इजी नहीं है.
और सबसे बड़ी बात है, जैसे सर बता रहे, इसमें करेज के साथ में सही समय, टाइमिंग और बुद्धि का भी भरपूर उपयोग होना जरूरी है. सेम फॉर सीए, सेम फॉर एक्चुअरीज. आई कैन टेल यू, एक्चुअरीज कोर्स इज वेरी टफ. the average age of the member when they pass the actuary, it is about 32 years. And I have passed actuary at the 24. And similarly for CA also, like, so in my case, I passed the actuaries in 4 years and 8 months from the registration date. Okay. And there are 10 actuaries in India who have done this in less than 5 years. So this is one fact about the
तो
my
अभी
actuarial.
कार्तिकेय ने 21 पे तो
Yeah, so this is to check our online members whether you can hear the voice and the screen is still visible. You can unmute yourself and please tell us whether you can hear us or not. Sound check 1, 2, 3. Hello.
so can anyone Akars, are you able to hear? Yeah, I think let's continue.
Yeah. Okay. So coming back to our case, the past service in the company is 2 years. There are certain attrition rate assumption of 10% per annum. Okay, we have projected the future accrued amount and the expected payouts are calculated as per the conditional probability. The question is why this amount is very low in the first 3 years and why it is consistently maybe reducing, or so what is the rationale behind this?
We have to complete 2 years in our option double gratuity benefit.
So they have to complete 5 years. Vesting period is 5 years. 2 साल आपने सर्विस ऑलरेडी दे दी है, 3 साल आप और दोगे तो 5 साल हो जाएगा. सो पहले 3 साल में अगर आप कंपनी छोड़ते हो तो आपको कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. सो दैट्स व्हाई दिस एट्रिशन रेट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट ओवर हियर. अगर आपने वही एट्रिशन यहाँ पे 1% लिया होता तो यहाँ का पे आउट तो बड़ा छोटा होता, बट आगे का पे आउट फिर बड़ा हो जाता, बिकॉज द कंडीशनल प्रोबेबिलिटी विल रिमेन हाई ओवर द फ्यूचर ईयर्स. सो नाउ द क्वेश्चन इज व्हाई इट इज स्टिल 100 रुपीज. जीरो क्यों नहीं है? ये 100 की जगह जीरो क्यों नहीं है, वो क्वेश्चन है.
सर क्योंकि है तो सही ना, लोग जो आगे जा रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है ना कि मतलब 3 साल के अंदर 100 की 100% ज्यादा साफ हो गई
ना. ये एक ही बंदे का ये कैलकुलेशन.
इनिशियल ईयर्स में भी कुछ तो आपको पे करना ही पड़ेगा.
सर अगर 5 इयर्स से पहले डेथ हो जाए
एकदम सही जवाब.
अलाउड है.
इस पे आपको एक गिफ्ट. इन 1000 है बट वो है और उस पे पे आउट भी है, तो उसकी वजह से ये अमाउंट बड़ा छोटा है. और फ्यूचर ईयर्स में ये अमाउंट डिक्लाइनिंग स्केल पे क्यों है? क्योंकि एट्रिशन की वजह से बंदे जा रहे हैं, तो उसका जो कंडीशनल प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ सर्वाइवल इन द कंपनी है वो कम होता जा रहा है, तो उसकी वजह से ग्राफ डिक्लाइनिंग स्केल पे. यहाँ पे ग्राफ इंक्रीजिंग द, यहाँ पे कोई एट्रिशन की बात नहीं है, ये खाली आपका प्रोजेक्टेड एक्रूड अमाउंट है सैलरी एस्केलेशन का। आई थिंक लाइट का अलग अलग कनेक्शन है क्या दोनों का?
यार तो मुझे
ये
कंटिन्यू
नहीं नहीं, या सो दिस इज अ न्यू डिस्कवरी।
नहीं वो उससे चल रहा होगा, अभी हो जाएगा, तुम कंटिन्यू करो।
या so that's why in the first 3 years the probability is therefore, so that's why we can see the final provision amount is very low. It is only 58,000 as against of now 98,000 the accrued liability. So the provision amount can be very low as compared to this accrued liability, and it is not necessary कि वो कम ही होगा। आपका बाकी जो assumption है, मान लो सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट आपका 10% है, एट्रिशन रेट आपका 7% ही है, and discount rate is also around 7.5%, let's say, and employees have completed the 5 years of service, तो उस केस में क्या होगा कि आपका जो एक्चुअरियल लायबिलिटी आएगा वो आपके एक्रूड अमाउंट से ज्यादा आएगा, तो उनकी फर्स्ट 3 इयर्स में भी पे आउट रहेगा। उस केस में बंदा अगर कंपनी छोड़ के कल भी जाता है तो उसको पैसा मिलेगा, तो उस केस में अपना एक्चुअरियल लायबिलिटी है वो एक्रूड लायबिलिटी से ज्यादा आ सकता है।
एक्सपर्ट आपको उस रिपोर्ट को एग्जामिन भी करना होता है कि ये प्रॉपर है या नहीं है, तो आप उस रिपोर्ट में क्या देखोगे टू गिव दी टू बेसिकली जज दी वर्थ ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर रिपोर्ट फॉर द एज ए ऑडिट एविडेंस फॉर योर ऑडिट।
सर उन्होंने जो assumptions लिए हैं वो सही
नहीं, वो तो मतलब आपको किस किस तरीके की assumptions और उसका अल्टीमेटली इम्पैक्ट किसका क्या हो सकता है, ये पूरा थोड़ा डिटेल में रिप्लाई देना है।
सर जैसे एट्रिशन रेट निकाल रहे हैं तो पहले ये देखना पड़ेगा कि आपने किस बेसिस पे निकाली है, कंपनी बहुत टाइम से चल रही है तो उसके पास एक्सपीरियंस से निकाली है, और नहीं है तो इंडस्ट्री बेसिस पे निकाली है, नहीं वो चेक करनी पड़ेगी सही है कि नहीं। और जो फ्यूचर इन्होंने सैलरी, जैसे हम एंड ड्रॉइंग सैलरी देखते हैं तो वो किस तरीके से हमने निकाली है, वो भी अजम्पशन उस पर क्या लगा है वो सही है या नहीं, ये तो बेसिक।
और क्या क्या assumptions की बात करी हमने, कितने लोगों की डेथ होती है,
और आईआर जो रेट दे रहे हैं हम लोग निकालने में मार्केट रेट, वो सही है।
That interest rate is also very important assumption to check, तो वो अपन चेक कर सकते हैं। Once this is done, I will show the practical how to check. All those steps are given in that slide, but I will show on the screen by going to that link how to check. I have covered one more slide on the audit checkpoint, that also I will show in some time. So here we have some of the practical aspect in the actuarial valuation, कि जो ऑडिटर को और फाइनेंस मैनेजमेंट को ध्यान रखना जरूरी है। पहला चीज की डायरेक्टर्स आपके एम्प्लॉय डेटा में होना चाहिए टू एंश्योर दैट, बिकॉज वेरियस कंपनीज में क्या होता है कि पेरोल का डेटा अलग होता है, डायरेक्टर्स का डेटा अलग होता है। पेरोल वाले बंदे को एक्सेस ही नहीं होता डायरेक्टर डेटा का आते टाइम पे, तो अपने को ये ध्यान रखना है कि जो डेटा एक्चुअरियल वैल्यूएशन के लिए गया है वो कंप्लीट डेटा है, ऐसा नहीं है कि आधा डेटा गया है। दूसरा चीज की इंड एस 24 का डिस्क्लोजर जो केएमपी का है, कि केएमपी का कितना खर्चा है एक्चुअरियल वैल्यूएशन का, वो बताना है। द बेनिफिट स्कीम शुड बी सेम एज पर द कंपनी पॉलिसी एंड द एक्चुअरियल वैल्यूएशन रिपोर्ट। द नेक्स्ट वन वी शो अर्लियर वाज ऑन द कंट्रीब्यूशन, की कंट्रीब्यूशन का लिमिट है रूल 103 के हिसाब से, बिकॉज देयर आर वेरियस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस where they are making more contribution, उसके बाद में उनको टैक्स ऑडिट में तकलीफ होता है। आप ट्रांजैक्शन तो पहले करके आते हो साल के बीच में, टैक्स ऑडिट होता है साल के बाद में। तो एज ए फाइनेंस मैनेजमेंट इन द कंपनी इफ यू गो एनीवेयर, तो आपको वो ध्यान रखना है कि आप ऐसा काम नहीं करें कि आप कंट्रीब्यूशन ज़्यादा कर दे। और इफ यू आर ए टैक्स ऑडिटर ऑफ द कंपनी, यू हैव टू हाईलाइट दिस पॉइंट कि वो अलाउ नहीं होगा। नेक्स्ट इज whenever we have any leave actuarial valuation, there can be different limits on the leave encashment and leave availment। कि आप मान लो कि कई कंपनी की पॉलिसीज में क्या होता है, आप लीव एक्यूमुलेट कर रहे हैं 60 डेज तक, बट एनकैश होगा खाली 45 डेज। तो वो दोनों का प्रोविजन अलग अलग प्रकार से होगा। वो कैसे होगा वो एक्चुअली का हेडेक है, बट वो दोनों का लिमिट अलग अलग होना चाहिए, वो रिपोर्ट में मेंशन होना चाहिए। सो एज ए ऑडिटर आवर ड्यूटी इज टू जस्ट टू एंश्योर कि जो एक्चुअल रिपोर्ट में बराबर से बेनिफिट स्कीम मेंशन होना चाहिए। द बेनिफिट स्कीम शुड बी इन लाइन विद द कंपनी पॉलिसी। देयर कैन बी केसेस ऑफ द एम्प्लॉय ट्रांसफर विद इन द ग्रुप। आपका एक ग्रुप है जहाँ पे 5 ग्रुप है, 5 कंपनियां हैं, अभी बंदा एक कंपनी से दूसरी कंपनी में आता जाता रहता है। वी नीड टू चेक विद द कंपनी वेदर दे विल बी हैविंग द कंटिन्यूटी ऑफ सर्विस। बिकॉज मान लो कि एम्प्लॉय लास्ट में छोड़ेगा तो वो बोलेगा मेरे को सारा मिला के 10 साल हो गए, पैसा दो मेरे को। सो क्वेश्चन इज कि वो कौन देगा पैसा, भाई उसने सब जगह काम किया। सो वी नीड टू ट्रांसफर द ग्रेचुटी फ्रॉम दोज रेस्पेक्टिव कंपनीज दैट टाइम, कि लास्ट में जाके एक कंपनी की बुक्स में जहाँ से बंदा जा रहा है वहाँ पे प्रोविजन रहना चाहिए, एंड जो खर्चा है वो रेस्पेक्टिव कंपनी में डेबिट होता रहना चाहिए। द लास्ट वन वाज रिगार्डिंग द पेंशन वैल्यूएशन की जो पेंशन के अंदर फैमिली पेंशन में एक अपडेट हुआ था last year for the banks. If we have any banks or any regional rural banks, for the RRB, they have given the pension. ये बंद हो गया लगता है। Okay. So this was the slide which all of you may have been getting कि financial reporting review board ने ऐसी क्या गलतियां निकाली, okay? कि जिसकी वजह से वो एकदम टॉप लाइन पे पहुंच गया एएस पंजाब। तो उनकी जो गलतियों की जो समरी है वो ये है कि पहला चीज तो कि कंपनियां इसका प्रोविजन ही नहीं करती ग्रेचुटी का। तो उसका सॉल्यूशन ये है कि वी हैव टू मेक द प्रोविजन बिकॉज ऑफ द मैचिंग प्रिंसिपल। व्हेनेवर यू रेंडर द सर्विस यू नीड टू मेक द प्रोविजन। यू कैन नॉट वेट फॉर 5 years, you cannot wait for employee to leave. We have to make the provision when employee is rendering the service. Second issue they found was company is not making the full disclosures for the post employment plan. अभी पोस्ट एम्प्लॉयमेंट प्लान में अगर डिफाइंड कंट्रीब्यूशन प्लान है तो वहां पे भी आपको डिस्क्लोजर देना पड़ेगा कि उसका अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी क्या है, उसका खर्चा कितना है। डिफाइंड बेनिफिट प्लान है तो आपको डिस्क्लोजर देना पड़ेगा अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी का कि पीयूसीएम मेथड से हुआ है, आपका खर्चा कितना है, एजम्पशन क्या, पूरा डिटेल डिस्क्लोजर देना है अगर आपका नॉन एसएमसी कंपनी है। तो इंड एएस तो सभी कंपनियों को पूरे डिस्क्लोजर देना है। तीसरा इशू उनको मिला कि डिफाइंड बेनिफिट प्लान था बट उसको रिकॉर्ड कर लिया डिफाइंड कंट्रीब्यूशन प्लान के हिसाब से। सो दैट क्लासिफिकेशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। सो इन दिस थर्ड केस व्हाट हैपेंड, कंपनी एट द एग्जेम्प्ट प्रोविडेंट फंड, कि जहाँ पे एग्जेम्प्ट प्रोविडेंट फंड कंपनी का सेटअप किया हुआ था and company have shown that as a defined contribution plan. In case of, have you ever heard of the exempt provident fund word earlier? Like, have you heard the exempt provident fund? Okay, none of you have heard the exempt provident fund. तो आपने पूछा क्यों नहीं जब ये बात छिड़ी तो ये होता क्या है?
वो तो गवर्नमेंट कंपनी में होता है, मतलब सारा कंट्रीब्यूशन सब चीज एग्जेम्प्ट होती है
ना। वैसा नहीं, एग्जेम्प्ट प्रोविडेंट फंड का मतलब है कि कंपनी को, सभी कंपनी को ईपीएफओ में पैसा जमा कराना होता है 12% जो अमाउंट है। लेकिन पीएफ एक्ट 1952 ने छूट दे रखी है, अगर कंपनी चाहे तो वो ईपीएफओ में पैसा जमा कराने की जगह अपना खुद का एक पीएफ ट्रस्ट ओपन कर लेते हैं, उसमें वो पैसा जमा कराए हर साल। Whenever employee leave the organization, we make the disbursements from this PF trust, and every year we are required to add the interest in the same account at the rate which is given by the government in the EPF. So this is the concept of the exempt provident fund. That why it is called exempt provident fund? Because company have taken the exemption for this trust from the EPFO, that we will not give money to you, we will keep the money in the trust. So why they go for this kind of trust? Company believes कि वो हम इंटरेस्ट ज्यादा कमाएंगे तो हमारे एम्प्लॉयज को ज्यादा पैसा मिलेगा. उनको लगता है कि सरकार कमाएगी 10% देगी 8%, तो हमारे एम्प्लॉय का नुकसान हो जाएगा. तो इसलिए हम अपना पैसा खुद ही मैनेज करके हम अच्छा कमाएंगे और एम्प्लॉयज को वो रिटर्न देंगे. दूसरा, उसमें एडमिन चार्ज नहीं लगता जो गवर्नमेंट उसमें लेती है ईपीएफओ में. So that's why companies go for the exempt provident fund. But currently for last 3 to 4 years situation have reversed. जहाँ पे एक्चुअल अर्निंग जो है ये एग्जेम्प्ट प्रोविडेंट फंड का ये तो कम हो गया है और गवर्नमेंट डिक्लेयर रिटर्न है वो ज्यादा हो गया है. तो उस वजह से अभी कोई भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एग्जेम्प्ट पीएफ पे नहीं जा रहा है. जिनका पहले से एग्जाम्पशन लिया वो सभी एग्जाम्पशन को विड्रॉ कर रहे हैं बिकॉज वो उनको भारी पड़ रहा है. कि भारी ऐसे पड़ता है कि सरकार देती है 8.5 इंटरेस्ट, इनका कमाई होता है 7% का, तो बाकी 1.5% इनको कंपनी के यहाँ से देना पड़ता है. सो there is a requirement, if you earn less than the government return of the EPFO, you have to give from the company's pocket. Okay, so that's why we need to ensure that this is a defined benefit plan and we need to make the provision accordingly. There was another issue for non-disclosure of the PUCM method कि आपने PUCM method से valuation किया है. So here are some of the consequences of mobile से connect किया. Let me close the video. Okay, so coming back to these consequences, so we need to qualify our audit report, and also if we have any funding of the gratuity, then it has to be done through the approved trust fund. And in case of company have done any LIC or any insurance company funding, then also we are required to take the report from the actuary because LIC report is not as per the AS15 certification. So I will now go to some other concepts. So just to summarize this, rather than skipping fully, so let's say whenever employee transfer from one company to another that we discussed, so we need to transfer the gratuity liability as well from one company to another entity. So these are the accounting entries for the same. Another is the tax impact for the employer. So as we discussed earlier, the income tax is allowed on the payment basis or the contribution basis. So these are some of the sections for the same. That income of the trust is also exempt. If we set up any trust, then contribution is exempt, At the same time, income of the trust is also exempt. When it comes to the employees, this section 1010, I hope you all must have read that if it is a government employee, etc. So I hope this is known to all of you from your IPCC days. This is one new thing which you should know. If the company have gratuity policy which is beneficial than gratuity act, so in that case, some amount of gratuity will be taxable. So there is a section 89 relief available to the employee. So this is the calculation of the section 89 relief, that how this relief can be calculated for the employee. So this is one calculation to make the benefit advantageous to the employee. So this calculation basically differs if employee have the service more than 15 years or less than 15 years. If service is more than 15 years, we calculate the past average tax rates of 3 years, and if service is less than 15 years, we calculate for the previous 2 years. These are some of the audit checkpoints. That what points can be checked while we receive any gratuity or any other actuarial valuation report. So it is not required that we take all of these. This is like one of the list prepared by me. Like, so one point is, first of all, the benefit scheme, which is very important. The benefit scheme is as per the act or not. Employee data should be complete and cut off. Like 31 March का data होना चाहिए, and they should capture all employees. For example, they are working from 2 locations, फैक्ट्री का और ऑफिस का. उन्होंने फैक्ट्री का डेटा दिया, ऑफिस का नहीं दिया, वैसे वर्षा वैसा नहीं होना चाहिए. It should be complete data. Directors data should be included. For trainees, the rule is if they are considered to be active from the old date, then we should include, otherwise trainees should be excluded. In case of employees having service less than 5 years, their data should also be given. In case of leave, for the availment purpose, we need to give the gross salary. But for encashment, we need to check the company policy, which can be the basic salary. If there are any employees transfer, so that transfer accounting impact should be considered. If any gratuity or any leave amount is paid or unpaid, that should be recorded in the report. We need to check for the appropriateness of the assumptions. That assumptions of salary escalation, attrition rate, and discount are appropriate. The next one is the actuarial gain and loss. So, as we discussed earlier, actuarial gain loss have 2 different parts. One part is actuarial gain or loss due to change in the assumptions. That at the start of year we have certain assumption, at the end of year we have different assumptions. Okay, the one assumption which will vary every year is the discount rate. Other assumption of salary and attrition can be same or it can be different. So if any company changes these assumptions from start of year to end of year, in that situation, what is the impact of the change in assumption? So that impact is called as a actuarial gain loss due to change in assumption. The next one is the actuarial gain loss due to experience adjustment. So that experience adjustment says what is the assumption versus actual. So it is like your variance analysis. That assumption was 7% salary increment, actual increment is 15%. So there is a high increase in the liability. So this high increase is recorded as an actuarial loss. Now the thing is, if this actuarial loss or actuarial gain is coming constantly every year as a high number, it means your assumptions are not appropriate. Because आपका हर साल ही variance आ रहा है, variance हर बार ही आ रहा है, इसका मतलब आपका assumption ठीक नहीं है. अगर assumption ठीक होता तो variance कम आता आपका. So if variance is very high, we should strongly recommend the client that assumption needs to be revisited. The last one is regarding the SC620 we need to use for the auditor's expert. So this is all about the actuarial valuation side. Any questions so far in this? Before we move and give some glimpse of the social security code. Okay.
Slides included some word phantom stock.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on the same?
Yeah. Phantom stock. So for this actually again one prize should go to my dear friend. Your name is Harsh. Garg. So basically this shows the intention to see the slide, understand he has constantly followed the discussion कि ये पॉइंट आगे तक कवर हुआ कि नहीं हुआ, ये पॉइंट इनके दिमाग में था. So this was he is listening it very nicely. He has seen the slides as well. Okay.
Yeah, but others are also listening.
Yeah. So coming.
But I don't have so much of pain.
Okay, so coming to your point of the phantom stock. Okay, can any one of you want to try for this answer? What is phantom stock?
पहले एक वो मैगजीन आती थी सर फैंटम वाली हैं
फैंटम करके एक मूवी भी है आपने पढ़ा होगा तो
कॉमिक्स आती थी
ओके या ओके क्लू तो नाम के अंदर ये फैंटम का मतलब आप समझ सकते हो डमी से हाँ ठीक है थोड़ा सा नजदीक है इसके अलावा और थोड़ा सा जाएंगे आप कोई फैंटम स्टॉक के बारे में ओके ऐसा नहीं है सो phantom stock is so this is something related to ESOPs as well. So in case of ESOP what happens, there are so many regulatory requirements from the Companies Act कि आपको शेयर होल्डर्स का अप्रूवल लेना है, पहले बोर्ड का अप्रूवल लेना है, स्टॉक एक्सचेंज का अप्रूवल लेना है अगर आप लिस्टेड कंपनी हो तो, then only you can issue the ESOPs. In ESOP, what is the benefit to the employee? They get the payout which is linked to the company share price. Now the question is how company share price moves. Company share price ideally तभी move होगा जब ये company का profitability अच्छा होगा. Ideally, बाकी other market forces रहते हैं वो अपनी जगह पे है. Otherwise, ideally the company share price should increase based on your profitability, your EPS, etc. Right? So what happened? This phantom stock culture came, where what happens? They don't give the equity shares to the employee as a benefit. In ESOP, what happens? Company used to give the actual share. वो employee को मिलता है as a benefit. But in case of ESOP or this phantom stock, they don't get the actual share. They get the dummy share, where the price of that dummy share or dummy unit is linked to some of the parameters like EPS, revenue, or any multiple of the any other P ratio or something like that, but not a equity share. So that's called a phantom stock. What happens from the compliance front? In case of phantom stock, there is no regulatory requirement from the Companies Act and the SEBI requirement or the exchange requirement. So that's why this phantom stock comes to the culture. We pay the benefit which is linked to the future profitability and etc. But we don't have to comply with all these regulations. From accounting front, what changes? Accounting standard says any benefit paid to employee which is linked to the equity share, they are covered under the Ind AS 102. या आपका जो guidance note on share based payment है, right? Because that is for the share based payment. But this phantom stock, this is not covered over there. This is covered under the Ind AS 19 and the AS 15 for provisioning purpose. So provision is required over here, but not as per the Ind AS 102, right? So now you need to tell me what do you understand from the ESOPs.
these are the benefits given to the employees, and they are not the actual shares given to them, but they will be potential shares given to the employees, and they can subscribe to those shares at some future date and some at future determined dates.
Right. And the price will be determined now or future price?
Now,
Okay, fine. Can any one of you, okay, ESOP will talk maybe after 5 minutes. First, I will quickly give you a glimpse of the Social Security Code, okay?
So we will conclude in another 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, accordingly, yes. So in case of Social Security Code, there are different acts which are coming together to become as a Social Security Code, like your Gratuity Act, PF Act, ESIC Act, Maternity Benefit, etc. They are coming together and becoming the Social Security Code. So what is happening in the Social Security Code and all other, this code on wages, etc. They have given the single definition of wage, salary. Earlier, all acts have the different definitions. On top of that, in 2017 or 18, there was a Supreme Court judgment on the PF salary कि कौन सी सैलरी पे पीएफ कटना चाहिए. वहां पे बात है कि ग्रॉस सैलरी पे पीएफ कटना चाहिए. So that made a hell lot of noise. कौन सा सैलरी कहाँ पे कंसिडर करना चाहिए. So considering that, government came up with the single act with the single definition of the wages. So that makes a lot of issues for the company because earlier the definition of the wages in the gratuity and PF was different. The difference was mainly with regard to the other allowances. जो सिंपल अलाउंसेस होती है जैसे बेसिक HRA, वहां पे तो क्लैरिटी थी, बट जो अदर अलाउंसेस होती है जैसे कई जगह पे नाम होता है सप्लीमेंट्री अलाउंस या अदर अलाउंस, वहां पे ग्रे एरिया था कौन सा अलाउंस कहाँ पे लेना कि नहीं लेना. तो वो चीज अभी यहाँ पे जाके थोड़ी स्ट्रीमलाइन हो जाएगी. सो दिस सोशल सिक्योरिटी कोड सेज the wage include all type of allowances, all remunerations. So first they have given like all inclusive definition कि सब कुछ cover है. Then they have given a paragraph something called as a specific inclusion कि ये चीजें तो include होगी जिसमें basic salary हो गया, dearness allowance and the retaining allowance. Then they have given some specific exclusions that these are the items that will be specifically excluded from the wages. So in the specific exclusion, we have like any bonus which is governed by any regulation or any HRA, conveyance allowance, etc. Now there is one more concern. They have given one proviso further to this definition, which states that limit on these exclusions is up to 50% of the total remuneration. कि 50% of remuneration से ज़्यादा नहीं हो सकता ये कोई भी exclusion. So due to this, you cannot have any practice where your eligible salary is less than 50% of total remuneration. Today what happens, you may see that basic salary is around 30 to 35% of the total CTC. But due to this, our eligible salary will undergo a drastic increase and that will increase our provisions. So this is one of the key change in the Social Security Code. One more change in the gratuity for the working journalist. If we have any company or any client where we have the working journalist, the vesting criteria has reduced from 5 years to 3 years for them. But for permanent employees, it is again 5 years. For fixed term contract employee, if any company have any fixed term contract employees, for them there is no minimum vesting criteria. They will be paid gratuity even if service is 1 year or 2 years as well. So this is more about the Social Security Code with regard to the gratuity and the wage definition. So basically what will happen, this will lead to increase in the cost because our wages will increase. Like currently if it is 30%, it will go up to 50% or more. And also it will impact our all the previous year service because benefit is a last drawn salary benefit. अगर आपका आज का सैलरी बढ़ रहा है, आप कंपनी में पूरे पिछले 10-15 साल से काम कर रहे हो, तो आपका इकट्ठा बड़ा प्रोविजन बढ़ जाएगा, राइट? So the impact is very huge. In some of the organizations, the provision will double. So that likely impact is very, very high. So we need to take cognizance of that. The accounting impact also will come because all the expense needs to come in the single year whenever it comes to the force. So this is more about from the impact side. There are some gray areas in the social security code as well. So the gray area is like this wage calculation itself will become a little bit of the complicated because certain clarifications are yet to come. For example, how we will account for the variable bonus, because as the benefit is last drawn salary, and usually in case of last drawn salary, nobody pays the bonus, variable bonus. So how we should consider the salary, how to treat the variable bonus. And the wages can be more than 50% of CTC as well, because the definition is like all inclusive. If you have any supplementary allowance or special allowance or other allowance, they will also form part of your wages. The impact can be reduced because of the 20 lakh limit, because for high salaried employee, the 20 lakh limit anyway will apply. So the impact may not be very high for the senior members. And again, the impact will be very sensitive to the assumptions, because if our assumptions, the base assumptions are not appropriate, then impact may be very difficult to ascertain. And finally, company can do the salary restructuring to minimize the impact of the social security code, because the definition is such that it is an all-inclusive definition. So we need to ensure that salary structure gives a minimum eligible wages and ensure that minimum impact is hit to the company. So this is all about the social security code and our discussion on this.